Welcome back to the channel. Well, it's a very exciting day for me as I'm hanging out here at American Honda. I was lucky enough to get a look at what my NSX Type S will be like. I've not seen a color that I don't like on the Type S, and the yellow does not disappoint. This is by far my favorite color. Another reason is many of my cars are yellow. But when I look at the Type S, I realize that I have cars that are much more extreme looking than this car, and other cars that are more conservative. Pretty much the Type S lies right in the middle. That makes this the perfect combination for me. Let's get into the new information that I found. Quite a few of my friends were not as fortunate as myself and were not able to get a Type S allocation. That's brought up a lot of questions, so I just want to hit it real quick. Everything is crazy, as all of you know, but things are changing. And for the most part, Acura is just making a huge leap with all their vehicles going to Type S. It's my understanding that PMC is to make Type S versions of everything, including potentially the Integra, which many of you know is already very popular. I will share this. I also had problems getting my Type S allocation in the beginning. Even with my friends at Honda trying to help me with advice, it was tough. We've always bought our Acuras at Acura Thousand Oaks, but I had a good friend Sebastian who's taken care of our MDXs, RDXs for a very long time. Unfortunately for me, he moved out of state. Well, he's probably smarter than all of us staying in California. But he now works at a dealership called Lyle Pearson Acura in Boise. Now, for any of you that are near him, he's a great resource, honestly, as straight up as they come. The problem became when I tried to get my Type S, allocations were gone almost instantly. But luckily for me, Sebastian still had a good relationship with Acura Thousand Oaks, and his friend Nick, who took over his position, was more than willing to give me a helping hand. Now when I say that though, I still also had to pay over MSRP, but my relationship with the dealership is what allowed me to get the allocation. You can kind of see the trend here as limited edition cars keep coming to get an allocation. Better price or no overage.
I don't like paying a premium.
That relationship with the dealership is key. Now, most of us that buy Lambos and Ferraris, we're well aware of how this deal goes. So it looks like to me, in the future, I'll be buying a lot more Acuras from Acura Thousand Oaks, just to make sure I can maintain that relationship, because I know there will be other Type S models coming down the pipeline that I will want. And unfortunately for a lot of my friends, even at 50,000 over, they weren't able to obtain a Type S, so I must feel very fortunate, and those of you that are getting one should feel very fortunate as well. Any of you that are thinking of building your wheels custom, I highly advise doing it before the price just exponentially spirals out of control. It seems like every time I talk to DPE, the price goes up. So the good thing is that I was able to confirm that on the front track, Acura is going to go ahead and widen the track by 10 millimeters and 20 millimeters on the rear. Acura confirming the exact changes in track on the front and rear is very valuable. This way, wheel manufacturers can take the original NT1 wheels and make the modifications to the offset to get the replicated increased track on the Type S. A lot of people are going with the lightweight package, including myself. But I needed confirmation on the brakes to make sure I could build the wheels. So the one thing I did find is that the carbon ceramic brakes on the Type S and the lightweight package are the same as the previous models. So you can use that information to build your wheels, such as I am doing. For me, at least to start, I'm gonna go with the 19 by 8.5 in the front and the 20 by 11 in the rear, which is the factory spec. A lot of times, I wanna try and stay close to that. I might upsize later, but I want the ride compliance to be good, especially because I'm gonna lower it. Staying at the factory spec also helps me keep the weight down. Every time I go up in size, I always have more weight. And as all of you know, weight's a major concern for me, because I want to keep the weight down and also I'm a big proponent of how the car was engineered by Acura. So as far as tires for me, it's kind of an interesting choice. But at least at current time, I like to go with Nitto tires, obviously. And the 555 Generation 2 is an amazing tire. That tire was launched on the RX-7 in SEMA. So the 7 ran it, my first generation NSX runs it. Now a new generation will be on the Type S. I don't know if it gets any better than that. I'll say with the 245, 35, 19 on the front and the 305, 30, 20 for the rear. As I work through this exciting process with Honda, I will say that I did ask if I could potentially have car number 69. Now I really don't like having cars low in the production number because I'm always afraid that they're going to be a test bed for something that may come down the pipeline that needs to be corrected, let's say. But I will say this. 69 wasn't available, and that's okay. I just like the number 69, and I'm sure a lot of you know why. In the range of numbers that Honda let me choose from, I went with number 151, as it is one of my favorite drinks of all time. And also at the core, number 51 has been very lucky for me through my lifespan. That is all very exciting to me, because many of the manufacturers have moved away from that, such as on the SV, you'll get a 1 of 600, and not that exact number. And then being able to choose a number is even more exciting to me. On the NSX Type S video that I did when I went to Honda, Ann Handler commented that she had heard that it was over $90,000 if you lose an engine in a second generation NSX. Through my findings, she's absolutely correct. In fact, unless you get an incredible deal, it's more than that. But to reassure those that are getting the Type S or have the regular NC1, I will say that my friends at Honda say that to their knowledge, there's only been one engine that's been lost, and that was an error at the dealership. The NSX was in for service, and the technician forgot to refill the oil. So let's hope that that doesn't happen to any of us. But in that case, I will say that it does look like the engine is rock solid, as with all Hondas. As we're in my NSX with a 5-speed manual, which someday I probably will convert to the 6-speed. Before all the inventory was gone, George advised me that I should pick up one of those transmissions. So luckily he helped me and I was able to get one of them out of inventory before they all disappeared. But life is going to change drastically because the Type S will have the dual clutch transmission. And although I am excited about that, I'm sure that I will miss this manual. But on top of all of that, the cool thing is that Honda has not had one transmission failure. So I'm sure that that transmission is pretty pricey since they haven't had a failure. You can rest assured that there are a lot of people flogging those cars. Be tempted to say that they're bulletproof. First generation NSX had a lot larger production number. The second generation NSX is much smaller. That of course means, as all of you know, as time goes on, even cars that are potentially not in service anymore, getting parts is just a difficult task. And on the aftermarket side, manufacturers have little incentive to build parts for a car with very low production numbers that they're not going to make money on those parts. A popular question that's been asked to me is, can the Type S front and rear bumper be used on the regular NSX to give it the Type S look? Well, in my talks with Acura, I actually got an answer. I myself was thinking of possibly purchasing a spare front and rear bumper to make sure I'm covered in case something happens. However, I was advised by Acura that they are changing the process and that all Type S parts will have to be ordered with a VIN number. So even myself right now wanting to order that front and rear bumper, it's not an option until I have the VIN number from my car. I don't know if it'll be eventually available from the aftermarket, but at least for now, your best strategy is becoming very good friends with someone that has a Type S that will let you use their VIN number to order parts. There are a lot of parts that I'd like to buy before everything doubles in price from all the supply shortages and inflation. However, I just can't get any more information than that for now. Honda's working on the Type S parts catalog, but it's not ready yet. And that makes it difficult to cross-reference part numbers between the Type S and the regular NSX, see if parts will fit. Now the key for me is, if I find that they're shared components, I can order parts right now that are available. If they're not, then that means everything needs to be reworked or wait for new products. So I'll have to see what happens. For now, all I can do is wait patiently and be very excited as to what's to come. Other than that, I hope that helps some of you out with your Type S situations. But for me, at least at current time, I will just continue to enjoy my regular NSX and go from there. Heading to Honda is always a blast, getting to see my old friends, and this time, in particular, getting to see the Type S. And the Gotham Gray was great. I did like that car, but there's just something about yellow. As you can see, that's my deal. But the car just delivered in every way. I will say something that I noticed. I do kind of miss the constant sound that my current cars make. Now, many of you know that the Type S will be my first hybrid car, and I don't have any electric cars in my collection. So that's probably something that all of you that have already had that experience can comment on. Whether or not I'll like it down the road, I don't know, it's hard to tell. And it wouldn't be a fair assessment on the Type S to say anything, at least at current point. But I will say that it's probably something I'm definitely going to have to get used to. In the end, which will I prefer? The constant sound of my current vehicles, or at times the quiet mode of the hybrid? We'll just have to wait and see. When I returned from my trip, Honda contacted me to let me know that the magnetic shocks and the springs on the Type S are the same as the previous NSX models. Now that's great news, because that allows you to shop for suspension now. Already everything has gone up quite a bit in price, so I'm trying to look for the things that I would want. As great as the Type S is, there is one thing that I do wish Honda would have made either an option or standard equipment, and that is a front lift system. All of my newer cars have it. Now, can any of us survive in cars that are low without it? Yes, but does it make life a lot easier? For sure. Some of you were nice enough to comment that Science of Speed already offers a lift system for the NC1. That was exciting news for me. I hate to take the hit on the weight, but saving the front nose would be of higher priority. Unfortunately, I contacted Chris of Science of Speed, and he and I were talking about it, and there's just no room for the iLift system on the Type S unless I start cutting things out of the car. And seeing that the Type S is the Type S, I really don't want to cut it up. And some of the ideas that he was mentioning to me are kind of extreme, like putting the rear air tanks in the trunk, cutting access panels. So what I plan to do is actually just give it a very mild drop. For me, the best option is going with iBox Pro Kit springs. They do tremendous development work, and they don't get so out of control with the drop that it's unlivable. They told me that they drive their NC1 without any problems. They've also done the suspensions on the 7 and the X. So obviously that's huge credibility to them. I believe the drop is only 1 inch in the front and 3/4 in the rear. So with some skid plates, hopefully I'll be able to navigate everything around here without wiping out the front. But any of you that want to plan accordingly, the suspension components are shared and are the same. Another good reason to get what you want on order is just the time frame. Even with iBox helping me, they're telling me that it could take 4 to 5 months to get my springs. Well, that's about the time potentially the car would be here. So, planning for potential obstacles, as things never seem to go right for me, I would try and get everything in order. That way you're not waiting forever for your parts when your car actually lands. Well, my friends, I hope all of you enjoyed checking out the yellow Type S. I want to just send a huge thanks out to Andrew at Acura PR for setting all that up for me. It was like living in a dream. But now that I come back to reality and I'm able to find some of this information out, I hope that helps you in your planning for your Type S. And other than that, have a great weekend. See you next time.